Welcome to another episode of Too Late with Dave. We're at where are we? We're at the Lemonade Factory, South London's finest studio. And we have cameras from Wex Photographic. Thank you very much. And I'm here with Michael Spencer Jones. And it's very timely, seeing as fair to say your most famous work is Oasis.
Yeah.
And they're in the news right now for various reasons. And how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, really good, yeah.
So you're down for the shows? Michael's from the north. You're down for the Oasis show?
Yeah. So, I went on Friday, saw them on Friday, that's right, and then I'm down again on Saturday. So, yeah, it was pretty... I don't very often use the word awesome, but it was awesome.
See, I've been looking for a reason to slag it off, but everyone I know has had nothing but good things to say about the shows.
Yeah. I mean, the vibe in the stadium, and it was a really hot night as well, which helped. But it was just incredible. It's kind of better than it was in the 90s almost.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
There's a kind of at one point, it kind of, in a way, transcended music. So, 90,000 people singing Roll With It is like, wow, that's incredible.
Now, because my recollection of seeing them a few times, first time round, I think one time was quite exciting, and then after that, I was like, they weren't that dynamic as a performance, And I was sort of curious as how that would translate now when shows are so big and epic and all of that, and it's like four blokes just standing there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen them a lot, obviously, but I think the greatest gigs that I saw them were kind of 94 when they were just sort of taking off and they were getting bigger, and then into 95, they did a show at the Point Theatre in Dublin. That was amazing. And then coming into 96, they played Main Road in Manchester, which was amazing. And then it kind of that, and when these American tour got called off, and it was that big thing around 97, and then they came back and then they did the sort of Be Here Now tour, and I can remember seeing them at Sheffield Arena in 95, and they took the roof off, literally. And then I saw them again in 97, and it was a completely different, whatever they had gone by 97. And but seeing them on Friday, it's come back, this kind of, it's almost like a, spirit thing.
It's interesting because, my feeling was it's either going to be fucking amazing or really shit.
Yeah.
There's going to be no flatness in there. And it seems to be. And a lot of people are saying the crowd, the crowd are really, like a friend from America who went and was like, they couldn't believe the crowd and how they were almost existing on their own aside from what was going on the stage. They were just having a good time. Yeah.
Well, and also I think the average age was probably around 30. So, I mean, that is a kind of phenomenal thing in a way because, I don't know if you see the Stones, they've got a bit of a young crowd, but I mean, bands that sort of their fan base tends to grow older with the band, and then, they do gigs, and then that's this, but they've just captured a completely new generation, and I think that's where all this kind of new energy is coming from. And it's really interesting, actually, what's happening, and I don't think it's really ever happened before.
We were at Iron Maiden last week, me and Shona, very...
And you were the youngest people there.
Their crowd had definitely grown.
Well, not you, Shona. Sorry. Dave.
But no, it's interesting that the crowd, makes such a difference.
Well, yeah, it's what Noel said in a way. He said it's not the fact that he's not saying like what is amazing is not the songs, it's the fact that you've got 90,000 people singing the songs back at you. That's what's amazing, and it was a thing to behold. Actually, to be honest, I was just like, wow. In fact, one of the best gigs, and I've seen a lot of gigs. One of the best gigs I've ever been to.
Amazing. And so, bring us back to your, initial involvement with Oasis. Did that come through from working with The Verve?
Yeah. So I was in Bournemouth. I'll take you right back. And so I did photography and film in Bournemouth, and then the course finished, and everyone moved to London. And I got offered this job in London with this photographer I've been working with, a guy called Stack, and doing all the sort of high-profile advertising campaigns. And he offered me a job, and I thought, advertising, I'm not so sure. So I moved to Manchester because a friend had gone there, and then I went freelance just at the time when the Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, all that was happening. So my first commission was Stone Roses at Spike Island. So I got into sort of photographing bands and stuff and working for like local arts magazines. The first cover I did for The Verve was a record called All in the Mind, and I shot it on infrared, and it was shot in this park. And they brought all their friends down, and I shot it on infrared. I sort of stuck my head out, and then back in the day it was all kind of analog. So
was this your first album cover?
I'd done it. Yeah, I think I may have done one or two before. I think I did one for The Farm, so I did this print that I sort of duotone, so it was sepia and then tone blue, infrared, and the record company absolutely loved it.
It's quite a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, I do take. I mean, it's like philosophy, but not philosophy, but it's like if you're operating on someone, like you're a heart surgeon.
I like the way this is going.
You can't say, let's try putting that blood vessel. Let's see what happens if we tie that one, and oh dear, patient's died. And with art or photography, no one dies if the idea doesn't work. And I think photographers and whatever, are too kind of conservative in their approach, thinking, whereas I've got quite a sort of, I do take risks. I've always done, in photography, because I just thought, well, no one's going to die if it doesn't, you might not work again, but but so that has always been my sort of mantra, just let's always try something new. So I did this thing, and it just went down a storm at Virgin and Hut Records, and it was that particular work that got me a lot of work. And then I sort of did the more Verve covers, and then obviously Noel cottoned onto that, and then that was my sort of introduction into Oasis, really.
And what were, like, when it came to coming up with ideas with them, like, how involved were they in the process of deciding what would go on a cover?
Yeah. Well, Noel especially was very involved. But I mean, every cover that I took for Oasis is a different story and a different creative process. So there was a lot of photographers work in a sort of quite perfunctory way. They have the same lights, the same background and stuff like that. And I always, want to change it every single time. So every single cover was different. So, for example, Definitely Maybe, Noel came up with this idea. He'd seen the back cover to Oldies But Goldies, and wanted a photograph of Oasis sat around this table. Well, that was the initial idea. Yeah. So a lot of ideas would mutate, and then the finished product bore no resemblance to the original idea. And then some covers, I'd come up with an idea, and then other covers, it would, Noel said, I don't know what to do with this sleeve, like Live Forever. We were sort of stumped on that one. And I came at this, I thought, I've got this image of John Lennon's house, Live Forever, John Lennon. Let's not tell anyone it's John Lennon's house, but it's a nice little, so that cover was sort of a found image that I'd taken even before Oasis had formed. So, each sleeve was different. And then the Whatever sleeve, go out to the tour, I think the West Coast tour in 95, I think 94, no, 94. to do the cover of Whatever in the desert at Arizona because Noel wanted a flat open space, and then the band implodes after 3 days of elephant tranquilizers. Quelle surprise. And then I have to come back and find this flat space in the UK, and there's not many open flat spaces in the UK. And then I thought of this space in Derbyshire where I grew up, you know, Burbage Moor, no, Hallam Moors in Derbyshire, and that became the cover. So there was always this initial idea with the Oasis covers, but they never ended up being what the initial idea was, which is good. I mean, it was great because it was very kind of organic, and they weren't kind of rigid in their ideas, and they'd take on board other ideas. So it was a very organic process.
So, like with an album cover thing, would there be that one idea? So, say with that we have on your book cover there. Were there alternative treatments or ideas, or was it this is what we're working with?
There was usually just one idea, but interesting you should say that because Anton Corbin, who I met a while ago now, says you just need one idea. And with Definitely Maybe, it was just the one, you know. It's an interesting shoot, that, because it just kind of developed. Because I think the original idea was to shoot it, but Definitely Maybe was to shoot it in Bonehead's house in the dining area, which was a sort of part of the extended part of the kitchen and the lounge. It was all open plan. And they were pretty insistent on shooting it. Well, they were totally insistent on shooting in Bonehead's house. So I went round to do a recce, and it's like, you know, and I went round with the art director, Brian Cannon, and he said, oh, they want to shoot it here. And it's like, what? It's like, you're joking, aren't you? So it's like, absolutely, I am not taking the cover. I'm not shooting the cover to Definitely Maybe, you know, in this kitchen stroke dining area. It's just not going to happen. And because I was they'd had a meeting and I hadn't been invited to the meeting, so I was unhappy. The fact that it was going to be shot at Bonehead's house, I was thinking I can get a trip out of this abroad.
Arizona sounds nice.
And then it's like Bonehead's house, who just lives literally at the time just lived round the corner from where I was living.
They all live next door to each other like the Beatles in.
It was. Well, it's funny you should say that, because there was a period in time in West Didsbury, there was Caroline Ahern, and then Liam moved in with his girlfriend for a couple of weeks, or two, you know, on Clyde Road, a few doors down, and then it was a little bit like that. It was a bit of a kind of a happening little suburb. So anyway, they were insistent on shooting it at Bonehead's house, and I just had to put my foot down. I said, I will shoot it here, but we're not shooting it there. And then I sort of turned around and saw the dining room, the lounge. And I said, we'll have to shoot it in there. And then I took the unusual step of shooting towards the light. So if you've got a big bay window, normally people use that to illuminate, but I sort of, we'll shoot into the light, and then any shadows I can eliminate from, just bringing some lights in.
Was there grim northern light?
Grim northern? No. Don't know what you're talking about, David.
I've only been there once.
The light in Yorkshire is absolutely beautiful. But, yeah. Or Lancashire. So that's how it became to be shot in the lounge. But the room, anyone who ever visits that room is just blown out by how small it is. It's tiny. So it's difficult to get 5 people in that room. So I thought I'm going to have to put a super, big wide-angle lens. So when I put the wide-angle lens on, normally I wouldn't bore you with such detail.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for, David. For the detail. So I put a wide-angle lens on, and the minute I put that on, suddenly there's all these floorboards. It's a picture. So it's an album cover of floorboards. And Liam had been standing up on the Supersonic cover, so I thought, I can't have him stood up, So that's not going to, So the only alternative was to have him sort of sat down, sort of cross-legged looking into the camera, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of looks a bit 60s Donovan, Ravi Shankar vibe. You know, it's not Oasis. And then I came up with the idea of having him lying on the floor in this kind of sort of out of this world kind of state. And in order to break the floorboards up, because the thing with floorboards, unlike carpets, they've got strong lines, and they always, you know, sort of dictate where the eye goes. And I've got this picture in the book, but all this sort of, the reason why all the 17th century Flemish still life painters, when they were doing the still life paintings of a table laden full of fruit, they always had a bunch of grapes hanging off the side of the table, and that was to break the linearity of the table. So that was...
I thought it was a gay thing.
Well, you would, Dave, wouldn't you?
Can we say gay?
We can edit that out. Yeah, it was to break the linearity of the table edge. So Liam broke up the floorboards and all that linearity aspect. But it also added this kind of surreal dimension. I wanted him on the floor with his eyes closed. I wanted him to be in this kind of meditative state.
So with some of this, sorry to interrupt, but with some of this kind of trial and error, as you've got them in place, this doesn't work, you have to move them around.
This was decided before the shoot, because I went back to do another recce.
Right.
And had someone lie down on the floor, you know. So, but I'd got it in my mind that, you know, to have Liam lying on the floor, but not, you know, in a sort of altered state kind of thing. And that was the...
Sorry, I'm keeping...
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But were they... We talk quite a lot with photographers about how little time you get or how little input there is from bands, but like it's quite an important cover, but obviously you don't know that at the time how important it's going to be. Was there did you feel any like pressure or, you know...
Did I feel any pressure?
Like just, you've got all these moving parts or moving...
a lot of pressure.
And, you know, to get it right.
Yeah, well, the thing is, definitely maybe I'd been playing it for like weeks, and obviously I wasn't circulating any copies to anyone, so I had to sort of, you know. But I had a little stories that I had this apartment in West Didsbury near Boneheads, and I can remember putting on, I think it was Live Forever, and I opened up all the windows. And this is about 3 o'clock in the morning on this sort of early summer morning, and I've got the speakers and I put them to the window and I just blasted out Live Forever to the whole of West Didsbury, and then the album stopped and there was this pounding on the door. It's like it was trying to break in, you know. And this is after I played the whole album at like number 11, you know, volume number 11, and anyway, so I was with my girlfriend and it stopped and it's like this is bang, it's what's that banging? It's like, went downstairs, opened the door. It was the police. There's this police woman, and she said, if you hadn't have answered the door just now, we would have broken it down. So it must have been loud.
Or bad.
I think there was quite a few complaints about the you know, it was late as well. So that's a little side story. But I've lost where I was now. Where was
we had Liam on the floor.
Oh, Liam on the floor. So so I knew. So
was he cooperative? Was he like,
absolutely, he always was. Yeah, he's a beautiful person to. Yeah, it's fantastic to work with. They all were. All were. Yeah, go on. Where were we again?
We were getting to the end of. Yeah, just positioning them all.
Yes.
So
that's it. I remember. Yeah,
it'd been worked out in advance.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're asking me about the pressure. So, you know, you've listened to Definitely Maybe, and you think there's no way that this album isn't going to be massive. So then you're tasked with shooting the cover. Yeah, of course, there's a huge amount of pressure. You know, it was really kind of a lot of pressure, which is why you kind of got an instinctive feel of what is going to work and what isn't going to work. And you just have to sort of dig in and think, well, if it goes right, everyone's going to be taking the credit, but if it goes wrong,
Your fault.
it's on your shoulders. So, yeah, a huge amount of pressure with that album. But it was funny because I decided to have Liam lying on the floor, and then the second thing is, will he agree to do it? That's a big thing, you know. So I was kind of really nervous. I think it'd been mentioned to him, but I think I was in the car with him, and I sort of said, are you okay about lying on the floor for the album? And he said, yeah, because I had two plans. Plan A was Liam lying on the floor, and the other plan, which was Plan B, was also Liam lying on the floor. So if he had just said no, I was completely screwed on that. So it was vital. And then on the day of the shoot, which was quite funny, all this has been so I've got, it's going to cross-process the film, so I've got an idea of what it's going to look like, sort of yellows and blues, Liam lying on the floor. And then they were asked to bring various objects in, but I knew that it still wasn't enough for some kind of album cover, really. So, so it was very much in the lap of the gods, when it kind of went over to them to bring all these objects in. But on the day that I arrived at Boneheads, I turn up, and it's just a house full of people, smoking reefer, this.
This is on the day of the shoot?
Yeah. So I walk into that, it's like, whoa, what's happening? Is it party time? It's like party season. Permanent. Well, as Oasis was, it was just the permanent party season. And I'm thinking, oh wow, this is going to be tricky, getting them all to leave. And then, if they all leave, all that energy goes with them, and then I'm left with. Then you've got to fill that vacuum. So it was kind of, with a photo shoot, you've got to keep the atmosphere going. You've got to have a bit of energy to it, and anything that disrupts that can send the photo shoot in completely the wrong direction. So I had to get them all to leave, and so I didn't particularly warm to this crowd, but there was one guy there. So I mustn't judge him too harshly, because there's one guy there who'd brought in this inflatable globe, Phil Smith, who was one of the roadies. And when I saw that, I kind of relaxed a bit. I thought, yeah, because it reminded me of Spike Island. So that was at the back of the room. And then I was thinking, what's that about? An inflatable globe at the back of the room. And then I thought he needs a new place to live, and then I came up with the idea of hanging it from the ceiling. And because it was a long exposure, it was like 3 seconds long, which is like an eternity, I thought, I'll spin it. It'll look like it's actually orbiting in the room, which is what I did. But am I going into too much detail here?
No.
So anyway, so I'll just backtrack a bit. So when this crowd of people left, the room was. I'm about to start the shoot, and then I look down the camera, and there's red striped cans everywhere, on the floorboards, on the mantelpiece, the fireplace, the windowsills, everywhere. And I'm going, wow, And the thing is that they're rectangles. So they're very distracting to the eye. I mean, in the three-dimensional world, cans are circular, but on a picture, they're like rectangles. So, and I also didn't want to represent them as being like these obsessive beer drinkers. I thought it's the
Not the right image for Oasis.
Well, it's not. Well, for the album, because it's. I mean, I think. Definitely maybe as high art in terms of music, It might have been produced by some working class, guys from Manchester, but I still think it's high art. So I didn't want to have, beer cans in. So the first thing I said was like, right, we're going to have to clear all the beer cans up. And they said, no, we want them in. And it's like, there was a bit of a standoff. So I stopped the shoot. And there was this real standoff. You know, I wanted the cans out, they wanted the cans in. And they were pretty adamant. And I said, look, if you leave, you know, and I was trying to explain it looks like product placement, you know, like James Bond. You know, look at the watch. He's wearing a Rolex, you know, and then Rolex appears. So it looked like that. So I said, look, it looks like product placement. And they still wouldn't have it. I said, if these cans stay, then you might as well call the album Red Stripe. At which point they agreed to remove them, and then we sort of went on with the shoot after that. So it was. It could have been a very different cover. Very different.
Are you happy with the end result? Definitely, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Do you look at it and go,
well,
wish I had a red
with
stripe
any
in there?
shoot I do, and it happened on Be Here Now. If there's anything that happens during a shoot that I do not approve of, I stop the shoot. You know, and it's like we've got to sort this problem out. And also, and this is where Oasis, they were very good. They were very patient, actually. No one gets to go home until I'm happy with the result. So everyone has to be invested in it. So, you know, I mean, in other words, you know, I don't end a shoot until I'm entirely satisfied that I've got everything I can get from that particular set of circumstances. You know, I've got to be totally happy and satisfied. I've never really left a shoot where I thought, not so sure about that. I've always been 100%, and the time-wise, especially with the album covers, you know, Oasis were great with that. You know, I mean, I think they kind of trusted me in that respect, where they just, well, if he needs more time, he can have more time. Whereas I think if it had been a quick photo shoot for something else, then they'd probably, you know, but because it was their album covers, they were sort of super invested in it.
And do you think, you know, their kind of love or obsession with all things Beatley, and just over the years of seeing album covers develop different meaning, or, you know, we're looking at something. So for the Beatles, say that Oldies but Goldies, that was just a shot of them in a hotel room. It wasn't shot for an album cover or the back of a cover. It was just a picture that was used. But for fans looking at it, they're like, oh my God, you know, there's this statue, there's this object, there's this, you know. So, like, so when they turned up with their objects, was there anything that didn't make it onto the cover? What was the weirdest thing they brought?
No, I think everything made it on. I don't think we pushed any. I mean, when I was shooting Be Here Now, I had to like push a lot of stuff back from that. Jesus. Like sets of traffic lights. It's like, guys, it's really going too far now. But no, with definitely maybe. I think the craziest thing was the globe, and it's all fairly subtle references. The pink flamingo, which was Boneheads, I do like that. I think that adds quite an important element to that cover. Obviously, the Burt Bacharach image adds an important element, but obviously the globe, it was, you know, when I came up with the idea of hanging it from the ceiling, and the great thing about it was that I bought this roll of invisible thread when I was at college, art college, and I'd never used it on anything, but there it was in my sort of toolbox with a bag of tricks, and then it was like a light bulb moment, ping, that I knew it would come in. You know, when you keep, where you invest in the belief of something that one day I will use this multi-handle screwdriver on it will come in handy. It was like one of those, and it finally came in really handy because you can't really see the thread. It's like invisible thread. And then that obviously gave me the opportunity to spin the globe. And it was that movement that created the catalyst. And then if you look at the image, and if you explore the science of aesthetics, it's all to do with balance, and it's all kind of...
I always thought he was holding it. I didn't know it was...
I think he's holding it on the back cover. But no, it's suspended. But if you look at the sort of science of aesthetics, you know, because we're animals, basically, we like everything within our field of vision. We don't like stuff being on the periphery. So that album cover works because you've got the globe, and then you've got Noel on the settee, and then it goes to Liam. So you've got this natural triangle where your eye sort of ricochets around the cover.
So then on to the next. So there would have been singles in between albums. So
Okay, yeah, another thing as well I just mentioned is it was like a 3-second exposure, and I think that's one of the reasons why that cover resonates. Because I sort of described, done talks where, so you take a photograph, say it's a thousandth of a second on your iPhone, it's a very short period of time. It's like it's a short slice of time, so it's a bit like a slice of bread. But if you do an exposure that's over 3 seconds, it's like having the entire loaf of bread. You get more time, and that does resonate when you look at the image. And one of the things, when I started shooting the cover to Definitely Maybe, with it being 3 seconds long, is like they were all over the place. They couldn't keep still. It's like, guys, this exposure is 3 seconds long. You're going to have to keep still. And
you're like a Victorian portrait.
A Victorian, where our image of Victorians is tainted by the fact that they've got their head clamped and they've been told not to blink, and that's coloured the way we see, from photography, really. Whereas future generations will be, when they look at all the Instagram stuff, they will think that race of people that lived in that period of time were so happy, so fabulously happy. They were all smiling all the time, but it's not true.
Do you think, moving on slightly, but do you think album covers are boring now? I mean, have you seen an album cover that makes you go, wow?
No, I haven't recently, no. But the thing is, with album covers, I think with Oasis, we kind of resurrected the album cover art. But, I mean, the long-playing record came in the 50s, I think, didn't it? So the LP came in the 50s. But, we've got this kind of notion that album covers were great. But, I mean, when they first came out, I mean, if you look at some of those early Elvis covers and Adam Faith covers.
Half of them. Bob Dylan's first album cover, the pictures ran the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, there's some shockers. And I give an example, and I think album cover artwork is immensely important. And one of the examples I give is like Pet Sounds, which I think is the worst album cover ever taken. It's like what Pet Sounds, have you got an idea for Pet Sounds? Yeah, let's go down to the zoo and feed some llamas. It's like that. It's, the graphics and everything. And I think that is part of the reason why that album hasn't quite got that iconic status like an album like, say, Abbey Road has, or Sgt. Pepper, or Definitely Maybe even, So I think it's enormously important.
Peter Blake said he'd wished he'd did the cover for Pet Sounds rather than Sgt. Pepper.
Did he?
I think he's more of a Beach Boys fan.
Wow, that's a bold statement, that
would have been an interesting...
it would have been, yeah. But that album, Pet Sounds, is a shocker.
Yeah.
I look at it, it's just the worst.
But a lot of the time, that was the thing. It's like what's refreshing with Oasis is bringing back that some thought going into... Because it doesn't matter how good the album is, a lot of people are judging. They're looking at that. If that's interesting, they'll pick it up. Same as a book or a magazine. If there's a great picture on the cover, it makes you want to investigate.
It does. And also, I mean, my argument has always been the cover is part of the creative content of that artistic entity or that musical entity or whatever you want to call it. It's part of the creative content because you can't really imagine an album cover, say if you take Sgt. Pepper, I mean, that defines what that entity is, because the music can't define it in a visual way. So you need an image, and you can't really imagine another image being used on Pepper. And the same with Abbey Road. If I say Abbey Road to you, you immediately think of the zebra crossing and the four Beatles walking across. Whereas if it had been a photograph of a skip,
But do you find that,
or
you know,
something.
we were talking earlier about that Abbey Road, you know, that was a very simple, relatively quick shoot.
Yeah.
They walk across 4 or 5 times. And now thousands of people a day recreate it, but walk like they've got something up their arse. You know, it's not referencing the cover correctly. It's like some comedy walk.
Yeah.
But then now you walk down Berwick Street and every fucker's like...
Every fucker. You're not wrong there, David.
Yeah, I did it the other night.
And I'll tell you what, because I was actually walking down...
You're one of them fuckers, aren't you?
No, David.
Like, get out of the way!
So, yeah, I'd seen Oasis on the Friday night, last Friday, and I got this friend out. This friend came over from Germany, and we were staying in, you know, Marylebone, and I'd never been to Heddon Street, the location of the Ziggy Stardust. I thought, I'll have to check it out. I've never been. So I said, you know, let's go down to Heddon Street. So we're walking down towards Heddon Street, and then the next minute, we're on Berwick Street. It's like... And then there's all these people, like, having their photograph taken. Like, it was unbelievable. And then I went up to these, I think, these 2 girls from Korea, as it turned out. I said, I took this picture, you know, no way, you know. And then, so I took some pictures of them.
I've used that line too.
Yeah. And it was, unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, it was like the Abbey Road Zebra Crossing.
It's like, I mean...
And you've got to dodge, the same thing, you've still got to dodge the taxis as well.
Yeah. I love watching taxi drivers get angry at Abbey Road.
Yeah. In fact, when I get a taxi, I always make them go round. Can you go via Abbey Road, please?
cost you an extra tenner. Yeah. But, so like with that, why that particular street? Why that particular spot?
Well, it was a very difficult sleeve to work on that because we'd got carte blanche. No one had got really, you know, what we're going to do on here. And then I think it came up with the idea of morning glory. So it's a scene in the morning. And then it was like, you know, some kind of street scene in the morning where a couple of people are walking back from a nightclub maybe. But so it kind of went from that. So when I did the recce, sort of looked at various streets to get the right. Obviously, you can do it on Oxford Street because you're going to get, unless you get it sealed off, you're going to get run over. So it had to be a fairly quiet street, and it kind of worked. But I think what clinched it was the fact that Knoll Street ran adjacent to it, and I think at that point it was like, yeah, it's a sign that this is it. So I think the fact that Knoll Street ran across Berwick Street clinched it for sure. And I think you get loads of tourists that go down there and they say, Knoll Street, no way, man. That's what a coincidence. It's a shame there wasn't a Liam Avenue. Yeah, Liam Street running nearby, but yeah. But and then I was kind of mindful about, you know, the ambiguity of 2 characters like that walking down the street. So that was a hard thing to play with. You know, it had to be ambiguous.
Is it weird for you going back to people recreating that? Like, is that weird? Like, you see people, do you want to correct them and say it's left a bit?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I feel
walk
like
a bit faster.
Yeah.
Shoulders back.
But It's, I mean, one of the things, Heddon Street, the Bowie cover is unrecognisable, really, which is a shame.
I know the guy that's got the original sign.
If I was Mayor of London, David, I would recreate that cover and turn it into a tourist attraction.
Missed the trick.
But, where were we? Going off on a tangent.
People recreating your...
Oh, yeah, thing. Yeah. So I mean, if I'd have known that, obviously when I was doing the shoot, I didn't know 30 years later you're going to get tourists coming from Korea.
Is that weird as well? Now, obviously, I assume the idea is to make a timeless cover, but were you expecting?
Yeah, I knew I was involved in some kind of history, you know. So I knew what I was doing was important for sure, but I would have hung on to all the props. I gave them all away, you know. A lot of them shake and make, you know, and it's like, damn, yeah, I gave all that away, and then they're appearing in auction.
Yeah.
So, but with Berwick Street one, it would have been nice to collect some of the signage that's all gone. I think it's Zachary, the jewellers. It'd be cool, really cool to have, you know, that kind of sign. But so I didn't really have that kind of a level of foresight. But, you know, the fact that 30 years later I'm walking down, bumping into a crowd of people, you know, this is where it was taken. It's quite bizarre, really.
Because I think the record shop
They love it.
They've got a picture in the window with an arrow.
Yeah, I think when they got the cover, I think the owner of that record shop was for a period of time the happiest man alive. No way.
Amazing, yeah. And which of the albums do you have a favourite? I know it's a terrible question, but I love asking it.
That's like asking who's my favourite child, David.
There's always one.
Can't possibly answer that question.
Which album cover gets away with the most then?
What are we talking, the album cover or music?
Cover.
My favourite cover, I think, is definitely Maybe, for sure. Because during lockdown, I was sort of, one of those moments, I was at home and I was just looking at the cover. You know, I just it was from an exhibition. It was just lent up in the sort of kitchen, dining room, and I was looking at it in sort of a dispassionate way, and I think, wow, that is quite an arty cover to lay on a band like Oasis. In a way, you know, it is. When you look at it, it's quite an arty cover. You know, it's very surreal. You've got the Globe, you've got Liam. And, you know, when you think in that tradition of Manchester bands, because the Smiths went for the sort of very gritty image and a lot of, you know, Joy Division and all that went for that kind of gritty image. And whenever, I think the early photo shoots of Oasis, the first thing a photographer did was just took them down to some old industrial warehouse, you know, that in an urban, you know, so I definitely wanted to, that was a very big conscious decision. I didn't want kind of that inner city, urban...
Coronation Street.
Yeah, that kind of, so I definitely wanted to sort of elevate it. It's a kind of a glamorous cover without being glamorous in a way.
What would you have done with Park Life?
Park Life, that's an interesting one. What would I have done? I don't know. I'd give a what is the cover to Park Life?
It's the Greyhound.
Yeah. That's the dogs. A cover about... no.
What album cover would you like to have shot? I know you're a big Beatles fan.
Well, I'd like to have shot, obviously...
Pet Sounds. What would you have done with Pet Sounds?
Well, interesting one. Well, it's a psychedelic album. I think that needed a little bit of the 60s in there, didn't it? I think it needed colour.
Do you think there was a bit of like...
I wouldn't have had a band shot. I don't think I'd have had a band shot because I think the Beach Boys, they weren't... I mean, that's another thing. You know, when you're a photographer, you know, you're very conscious about a band, you know, and I've worked with bands that just don't look great. Yeah. And so you're very conscious of that. And in fact, when I was doing the covers, the first consideration for any Oasis cover was, are the band going to be in it, or do they want to be in it? And if they want to be in it, then that you go down that kind of avenue. And if they don't want to be in it, like whatever, or say Live For It, you know, you go down the other route. But I think with Pet Sounds, I would not have had the band in. I would have gone for a kind of surrealist, kind of psychedelic vibe to it.
And how important when you were, you know, discussing what was going to be on the cover of an album or single, to have listened to the music and try and connect the two? Oh,
very important. Yeah, extremely important. You know, you're connecting with the music because then you become emotionally invested in the project. You know, I mean, I couldn't have shot Definitely Maybe without having listened to the album. You know, so it is important. Yeah, it's super important, you know, to get that connection. But I mean, going back to the Beatles one, you say, you know, is there any one? I mean, I can't say I would, you know, I couldn't have bettered Sgt. Pepper. Abbey Road, you couldn't better. But I think my favourite Beatles cover, which I love as an album, I just think it's brilliant, is Rubber Soul. I love that album cover. Is it Robert Freeman?
Yeah, Freeman.
I love that album cover.
Happy Accident as well.
Yeah, and the fact that it's the first album cover that was stretched, and I really like stretch pictures. So that's a top picture. That is one of the best band shots. I think that's most possibly the most defining band photograph. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, good point, actually.
Yeah.
And so now it's also Richard Ashcroft's on the
Oh
board.
yeah.
Yeah, what's that like seeing him?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
It's kind of
because I was just talking in the taxi, and I saw the Oasis at the Lead Mill, and they were supporting the Verve. Can you imagine what a gig? Lead Mill, Sheffield. Who's the support act? Oasis. Who's the main act? Verve. Wow. And then obviously it switched over. But so
that's great that he's on it though. I mean,
yeah, I think so. I think it's a perfect match, to be honest. And it's, you know, and then the Verve started supporting Oasis, so they've had a kind of close. I think that I know, you know, I mean, they you know, Richard's close to Oasis, yeah.
And off the back of all that, obviously there's renewed interest in your pictures and work, and so you've got your book.
Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I was wondering.
I feel like Graham Norton. Tell us about your new book.
I was wondering when you'd bring that up. Yes, so a publisher's approached me to do a book on Oasis, and I've got about 10,000 images. So I thought, and a lot of them are digitised, but it's only like 10%, 20% digitised. So I went and I thought I'm going to have to digitise the whole archive. So I got to through the first year, 1994, and it suddenly hit me. I've got enough material for a book here, just from 1994, and also it's all about Definitely Maybe, and I thought it'd be a good thing to do a book, you know, on the making of that album and you know, that year. So here it is. So Definitely Maybe, A View from Within, and comes in a slipcase, and then you get the cover. And I've also written a text, so there's a sort of 14,000 word text. So the text is pretty interesting. Oh, and that's the cover I did for the 30th anniversary, which Oasis got in touch with me about the outtakes, and then I said, well, this is a good image, make a great back image, and then Noel said, oh no, that's going to be the front cover for the 30th anniversary. So that's the back cover of the book.
And whatever I saw, there's somewhere in Oxford Street that's got some big blow-ups. Is it in Oxford Street? Somewhere. I saw a big, someone posted a picture the other day. Did you see that? Lying down in front of a big. We'll have to get your people onto that.
Is it in the
is it in the merch store? Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I've been working with them on that.
Right.
Yeah. I've been working with the merch people on that. So I think they're using that as a background, so you can go into the shops and have your
lie
photograph.
down like Liam.
Yeah, and have your photograph taken, and you could, so. That's good. I mean, another crazy thing is that we'd stumped on the walk on the Saturday when I was going to walk down Berwick Street. Came across the Carnaby Street store and queues, people to get in, and then ticketed as well.
Is it?
Yeah, you can get tickets. So you find your slot.
Can you sort us out? I'm gonna jump that queue. I'll jump that queue and lie down.
Yeah.
For longer than is
we'll have to storm it.
Yeah.
We'll have to put the high vis The thing to do is put the high-vis jackets on and litter pickers with the stick. You can get in anywhere, because there was that guy at Heaton Park. He just walked. The security, because I did this interview for Radio 2 with Vernon Kay, and it was at outside broadcast at Heaton Park. And the security was just like, it was like easier to get into Fort Knox, I suppose. It was just incredible. And then I was reading in the papers that this guy just put this high-vis jacket on with this litter picker and just walked straight in.
I used to do that at Glastonbury. I had a high-vis, but it was a triple extra large, so I had the sleeves rolled up about, because we had all the parts in that, but it was such a pain.
It's an interesting thing, this, because there's so many people doing it. You put the high-vis jacket and you can just stop traffic. We're so conditioned to be told what to do that, you can do anything with the high-vis jacket. In fact, you could have half a dozen people with high-vis jackets, revolution, could have a takeover.
Obviously, the gigs have been and will continue to be very successful, and very positive feedback. And do you think they could record another album? Do you think they should record another album? And if they do, what would you do for a cover?
Well, if they could or should, I don't know if...
well, they could, but should they?
Should they? Well, it all depends if it was a good album, if it's going to, But I still think they've got their Abbey Road in them. I think they've... I've always thought that. I think they've just got one more album in them. I think Noel's always sitting on a few songs, and I think they could go back in the studio and I'd love to hear a new Oasis album. I think it'd be great news. But
what would the cover look like, though?
Well, that's the thing. You'd
have to make them stand further away from
I'd have to stand further back. I'd have to get the gauze out. Get the gauze. But they
could all lie on the floor face down.
Yeah, I'd take them back to Stratford Avenue, I think, and get them both to lie on the floor.
What was the... like a popular thing with bands, like doing album art, like end of career or later career albums, to have like childhood pictures or very early pictures. Can you remember the first time you shot them?
My first photo shoot?
With Oasis.
With Oasis was when I met them, the first time I met them, which was out of the Blue Studios in Manchester. And there's all this talk about this band called Oasis, and everyone's like going, wow, they're amazing. This is like early days, and they'd just been signed. And but everyone was raving about all the bands. There'd be a new band, and everyone would rave. So it had no currency when someone said they are amazing. So I took it with a sort of pinch of salt. So there's this meeting arranged where I was going to meet them and do some shots with them as a sort of form of introduction. And it was it was like a Tuesday night or something, and it was chucking it down. It was winter, it was Manchester, and I just, oh God, my enthusiasm was not where it should have been. So anyway, I got into the car, and then it was back in the day when you had like the A to Z, and normally, big A to Z, I had this little pocket A to Z that was just super hard to read. So I'm driving, it's like, where is this address? I'm getting really frustrated. Oh, and at this point, I'd not heard any of the music at all. But I was aware that they'd signed this 6-album deal with Creation, but I'd not heard the music. So I'm just driving, it's like, is it going to be worth the trouble? So I'm looking for the address in this A to Z. So I keep pulling over. And then I got the radio tuned to this local radio station, and then this song starts playing on the radio, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. And then it was like, wow, what is that? That's amazing. And this is on the way to photograph them. And the DJ said, and that's by a local band Oasis called Columbia. And it's like, what? Local band Oasis? That's the band I'm on the way to photograph. I mean, the coincidence is unbelievable. So I don't know how it would have been had I not heard that song. I would have probably popped in the studio, taken 2 or 3 pictures, bye. and just driven home. But when I heard that, it's like, whoa. And that completely changed my whole attitude towards the meeting, basically. I thought, wow. And then when I walked in the studio, I was a bit surprised because they were actually in the act of recording, so I had to be quiet. So I walked in, and then there's a playback coming over the speakers, you know, the sort of Coca-Cola song. You know, I'd like to buy the world, you know, it's like I'd heard as a teenager, and I'm thinking, so I've just heard Columbia, next minute I'm hearing this, it's like, whoa, what's this? And at that point, it's like, yeah, this band is really happening, because I think with any form of art, you have got to operate in a space of creative freedom. You can't be second-guessing what people are going to say or what people are going to think. And the thing with Oasis is that they create that space for them. They were in a space of complete creative, well, especially Noel with his songwriting, of total creative freedom. He didn't care. Yeah, I like that. We're going to nick that and put it right in the middle of a song, a sort of 12-bar blues song or whatever. And there's a touch of genius there about doing that. That, you know, where you're not tethered to any social zeitgeist or social constraints. You know, you're operating in your own artistic space, and and that I realised that when I first met Oasis, that they're operating in their own. Okay, they're influenced by all these other musical artists, but actually, when it came down to it, they were operating within their own creative space, and so that was and then I'd met, well, I hadn't met Noel Gallagher. I'd seen him around in Manchester, you know, in New Mount Street actually, but I'd never met Liam Gallagher, so I didn't know what he looked like, but you know, when someone he said, "Oh, this is," you know, when I got introduced to him, "This is Liam Gallagher," it's like, whoa. And I looked down the camera, you know, and I saw a face that embodied the quality of stardom. It was like, whoa, this is happening. This is really happening. And this picture in the book is probably one of the first pictures I took of Liam. So So it was. But had I not heard that song on the way, it could have been different. Because it's funny how attitude and how you approach any situation creates the outcome. You know, if you enter any situation with a sort of negative attitude, then the outcome's probably going to be negative.
I approach everything with a negative attitude.
Do you?
Except this interview.
So, you know, who knows? But it was a bit. It was funny that I heard.
So after that, you were kind of fairly tight with them and everything they were doing. And
So I met them a few days later. They were doing a gig, and I showed them the shots, and I think they were really blown out about the shots that I managed to get in such a, because it was just like a rehearsal room, really. I mean, you say it was a studio, it was like a rehearsal room almost, and so I think they were pretty blown out by that, and I think that kind of secured my involvement, really.
I mean, it's pretty, you know, the amount of times, like where I've worked on projects, like box sets or anniversary things, and there's never any pictures in the early days of bands, or if there are, they're not good. You know, someone with a camera, you know, so to have like early sessions, recording sessions, great for history. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, really, I mean, that initial session I did is an important, you know, document of, but photographed in an aesthetic way, which is, you know, like you said, a lot of the shots you get, you know, from the early days, they're just, you know, snapshots, really. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
What were you expecting when you went to the reunion?
Well, I'd seen the reviews from Cardiff, which were brilliant, and I think what has really kind of blown people away is that I think people are really surprised about how good they are. That they've come back with all guns blazing in proper Oasis style. But yeah, I mean, the gig that I saw last Friday was just, like I said, I think it's possibly the best gig I've ever been to, because the energy within that stadium was just, it just transcended music. It just kind of went somewhere else. You know, like I say, you know, when you've got 90,000 people singing Roll With It, jumping up and down, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And fun is what has been missing from a lot of people's lives recently. So it was like...
Good times are back.
Good times, yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, if there'd have been a roof on Wembley, they'd have taken it off.
But it's funny, you know, just being in London when they're playing, it's quite trippy because everyone's wearing Adidas and bucket hats and, you know, you have to kind of check your watch to see what time it is.
Yeah, but I mean, the vibe was just, it was just astonishing. I've never witnessed anything like that at any gig. And I've seen a lot of bands. I've never seen anything like that. It was just, it was special. There was something, there's something happening, you know, which is, you know, and I think the great thing about it is that, you know, I think both Noel and Liam went to Spike Island and thought, wow, that's amazing, and then went to form a band, you know, and I think maybe, you know, there's going to be a few people in that crowd that think, wow, this is amazing, I want to do that, and go back home and pick up the guitar and start writing songs in their bedroom. Who knows what's going to come out of it.
Maybe you've inspired a few people to pick up a camera and make an effort.
Well, hopefully, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, I hope so, yeah. Yeah, the book, definitely maybe, A View from Within, it's available from spellboundgalleries.com. So if you go to that website, you can get your copy. And there's two versions. There's the collector's edition, comes in a slipcase, and you get a free signed print with it. And then there's the deluxe edition where you get a free contact sheet and there's two signed prints and comes in a shell box. That's a little bit more money, but it's good, good value. So please check it out.
Nice. Thank you, Michael.
It's been a pleasure, David. I look forward to the next time as well.
When the Verve are doing Wembley Stadium,
do you
think that would happen? Do you think the Verve would get back together?
No, I mean that's an interesting one. That will the I think, I mean, I'd love to see the Verve back. I was talking in the taxi over that the Verve. Some of those early shows were just astonishing, and in fact, the Verve, I think, in a way, carved the way for Oasis. I think they don't get the credit that scene, that kind of indie scene, which is a word I don't particularly like, but they created that kind of, you know, they kind of sort of cut the sort of the tree, you know, or whatever. They laid the path, because that's how I felt with the Verve, that they did all the sort of the work, and then Oasis came along, and they were the perfect kind of. But I'd love to see them reform the Verve, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Let's see.
We'll see. Never say never.
Never say never.
You never know.
Never know.